Hi everybody, this is Brittany Macias from Teach Me ABA, and today I wanted to talk to you about the BCBA task list, and specifically Section A, which is the foundations. Let's take a look. For those of you that are getting ready to take the exam, know that there's a lot to cover in that task list. So what we wanted to do at Teach Me ABA was to break it down for you, one by one. Now, I first want to talk about Section 1, specifically the philosophical underpinnings that are ABA. So if you look at the task list, this is going to cover A-2. So what is A-2? So that one covers the 7 philosophical assumptions that are the science of ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. Now, what this talks about is that all scientists share a fundamental assumption about the nature of events that are amenable to an investigation by science, general notions about the basic strategy, and perspectives on how to view their findings. Now, all of the information I'm sharing with you today comes straight from the Cooper book. So if you haven't found out what that is yet, maybe you should go ahead and look for that. So the first one we wanted to talk about was determinism. So this is basically the presumption that the universe is a lawful and orderly place. All phenomena occur as a result of other events. So what does this mean exactly? Basically, this means that things don't just happen out of nowhere, especially when it comes to behaviors. We obviously have to talk about the ABCs of a particular behavior. Take a look at one of our other videos and we'll go into detail about what ABCs of behaviors are. The next philosophical assumption is empiricism. Now, this is the practice of an objective observation of a phenomenon of interest. Now, what is a phenomenon? When we discuss phenomenons, we're basically talking about behaviors. Especially coming from the Cooper book, you're probably going to hear that a lot. So we're just talking about behaviors. And all that empiricism means is that we cannot make observations that are subjective. We have to make them completely objective and only talk about what we actually see. The next is experimentation. So this is basically saying that our experiments are a carefully conducted comparison of some measure of a phenomenon of interest, again, being the behavior. So this is the dependent variable. And what's also being observed is going to be 2 or more other conditions in which only one are going to factor in at a time. So that's the independent variable. So this differs from one condition to another. So depending on what kind of intervention you're going to implement with your client, this means that you could be changing the intervention as you go. But what this really gets to the heart to, especially with ABA, is that data is everything. So you especially have to make sure that all of your data is taken into account and you're taking into account all the changes that can happen. The next assumption is replication. Now, this is important to the science. Basically, this means that we're going to be repeating experiments, as well as repeating those independent variable conditions within those experiments. Now, this just means that only by repeating an experiment can we truly assess the reliability and validity of that experiment, being your intervention. So it's going to be really important that it keeps the science honest with replication, and it determines consistent results. The next is Persimmony. So all simple logical explanations of a phenomenon under investigation are ruled out. So experimentally or conceptually, they are ruled out before a more complex or abstract explanation are considered. All this means is that we need to rule out all other explanations before we even give an explanation for that target behavior. Last but not least, we have philosophical doubt. This is the requirement that scientists continually question the truthfulness of what is regarded as a fact. So what does that mean? This means that as scientists, especially in ABA, we have to question or be skeptical of treatments. And that's every single treatment and every single experiment that comes out. The reason we do this is because we always have to remain true to what the behavior actually is, or what it is that we are targeting. If someone else is actually trying to sell maybe a brand new intervention and they're saying this is going to cure autism or something that just doesn't sound true, the likelihood of it is that it probably isn't. So we always, as scientists, want to remain skeptical. And the next is pragmatism. This is the philosophical attitude that something has value or is true to the extent that it leads to successful outcomes when practically applied. All this means is that when an intervention or an experiment is rolled out the way it should be rolled out, then we're going to get those results that we want to see. Now, this is going to be really important, especially for our clients. So that means your behavior therapists need to be rolling out the intervention as planned. If not, we're going to have some variables that might change that behavior. Okay, and those are the philosophical assumptions of ABA. All the information that I discussed can be found in the Cooper, Heron, Heward book by Parsons Education Incorporated. This is from Chapter 1 of Applied Behavior Analysis. I hope that everything I've discussed today has given you a really good understanding of ABA philosophical underpinnings, as is discussed in the BCBA task list, the 5th edition. If you have any other questions about what was discussed today, please go ahead and leave us comments down below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Once again, this is Brittany from Teach Me ABA, and we'll see you all soon.